When I first moved into the apartment on Ashgrove Street, I thought I'd finally caught a break. Rent was dirt cheap, the place was clean, and it had a small balcony that looked out over a quiet street. After months of searching, it felt like I had stumbled into something perfect. The building itself was old but charming. Creaky wooden floors, faded yellow paint in the hallways, and that faint, musty smell of a place that had been lived in for decades. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. The landlord, an older man named Dennis, handed me the keys and told me to ignore the quirks. I figured he meant the usual: leaky pipes, noisy neighbors, maybe the occasional cockroach. What he didn't mention was that the apartment had a history, one I was about to become a part of. The first few days were uneventful. I unpacked, bought some secondhand furniture, and started to settle in. The only thing that felt a little off was the hallway outside my door. The light above my unit 4B never went off. It hummed constantly, flickering every now and then like it was struggling to stay alive. The air there was always cold, even when the building's heat was running full blast. I told myself it was just a draft. That's what everyone says before things start getting weird. The first night something happened, I woke up around 2 in the morning to a sound. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate. I froze, listening. Then after a few seconds, 3 more. I thought maybe it was a drunk neighbor at the wrong door. I got up, half asleep, and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. The light above my door buzzed louder than usual, and I could see dust swirling through the air. I opened the door just a crack, and the knocking stopped instantly. There was no one there, not even the sound of footsteps retreating down the hall. Just silence and cold air. I shut the door quickly and locked it, convincing myself it was nothing. Maybe a pipe, maybe my imagination, but deep down I didn't believe that. It happened again the next night and the night after that. Always at the same time, 3 knocks, a pause, and 3 more. I started to dread the hour between 2 and 3 a.m. I stopped looking through the peephole. I didn't want to know what was out there. Then one morning, as I was leaving for work, the woman across the hall came out of her apartment. She was small, pale, with messy hair and dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. Her name was Karen. When she saw me, she asked in a low voice, "Have you heard it yet?" I didn't even have to ask what she meant. I just nodded. She glanced down the hallway, then back at me. "Don't open your door," she said, "no matter what you hear." Before I could ask her what she meant, she turned and went back inside, shutting her door firmly behind her. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, waiting. The knocking came again, but softer this time, like whoever or whatever it was knew I was listening. Then for the first time I heard something else. A voice. "Let me in," it whispered. It wasn't angry or aggressive. It sounded like a person in pain, like someone desperate. My blood ran cold. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then it spoke again. "Please. It's so cold." I sat up slowly, staring at my door. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. The voice was quiet, trembling. "Who are you?" I managed to whisper back. There was a pause, and then it said something that made every hair on my body stand up. "You know me." I didn't say another word. I stayed perfectly still as the doorknob began to turn, just slightly, clicking against the lock. I ran to the door and slammed the chain across. The movement stopped. Then something tapped the peephole from the other side. Just once, a single soft tap. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next day I tried to talk to Dennis, the landlord. He brushed me off immediately. "These old buildings make noise," he said, not even looking up from his papers. "Don't let your imagination run wild." But I could see something in his face when I mentioned the voice, a flicker of recognition, like he'd heard it before. Later that evening, I decided to check on Karen to see if she'd heard it again too. I knocked on her door, no answer. I called her name, but nothing. The door was unlocked, slightly ajar. Against my better judgment, I pushed it open. The smell hit me instantly. Rot, like spoiled meat and mildew. The apartment was trashed. Furniture overturned, glass on the floor, deep scratches in the walls. Karen was gone. Her phone was still charging on the counter. And on the back of her door, written in thick black marker, were 3 words: "Don't open it." I called the landlord again, told him Karen was missing, told him about the smell. He sighed like he'd been through this before. "She moved out," he said, "left in the middle of the night. Some people can't handle living alone." But there was a tremor in his voice, something he was trying to hide. I wanted to leave too, but I couldn't afford to move again. I told myself I'd stick it out one more week. That night, I shoved my couch against the door and tried to drown everything out with music. Around 3 a.m., the smell came back. Stronger than ever. It was like something dead was sitting right next to me. I turned the music up louder, but that didn't stop it. Then came the scratching. It started faint behind my headboard. Slow, steady, like fingernails dragging along the wood. I banged on the wall and yelled, but the sound didn't stop. It just moved higher, traveling along the wall toward the ceiling. Then it paused, and for a moment everything was silent. I pressed my ear to the wall, heart pounding, and heard breathing. Long, slow, raspy breaths just on the other side. I backed away, grabbed my phone to call someone, but it was dead, even though I'd just charged it. That's when the knocking started again, 3 times. Except this time it came from inside the apartment. I spun around and the bedroom door creaked open by itself. My heart stopped. The air in the room shimmered like heat waves rising off asphalt. The smell was unbearable. Then I saw it, a dark shape standing by the window. It was tall, motionless, with long arms hanging at its sides. I blinked and it was gone. But the air stayed heavy and cold. I ran out of the apartment barefoot and didn't stop until I was outside, shivering in the street. When I finally worked up the nerve to go back, I brought the police with me. They searched the place, said there was nothing unusual. No signs of forced entry, no evidence of anyone breaking in. They told me maybe I was having night terrors or stress hallucinations. One of the officers mentioned something strange as they were leaving, though. Funny, he said. We got a report from this building a few years ago. Guy went missing from the unit next to yours. Same kind of complaints, noises, smells, voices. Never found him. He laughed it off, but I didn't. After they left, I went digging through the storage area in the basement. I don't know what I was looking for, but I found something anyway. A folder with old tenant records. The last person to live in 4A, the apartment next to mine, was named Elliot Granger, missing since 2019. The police report said his neighbors heard knocking and low human vocalizations from his walls. There was a photo of him paperclipped to the file. The face made me go cold. He looked eerily like me. Same hair, same build, even the same tired expression. I dropped the file and ran upstairs. I should have left then, but I told myself I'd grab my things and go in the morning. That was my last mistake. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling, waiting for it to start. Around 3 a.m. it did. The knocking returned, but this time it came from inside the wall itself. The drywall behind the radiator began to bulge just slightly, like something was pressing from the other side. The air grew thick and heavy. Then the wall cracked. A thin, black hand pushed through, fingers twitching, nails scraping against the plaster. I screamed and ran for the door, but it wouldn't open. The locks were jammed. The thing pushed harder, pulling itself out of the wall piece by piece. I could see its shape now, tall, thin, moving in unnatural jerks. When it finally stepped fully into the room, I saw its face. It was me, pale, hollow eyes, mouth stretched too wide, skin hanging loose around the jaw. It tilted its head, mimicking my movements, and whispered in the same voice I'd heard nights before. You know me. I don't remember much after that. The next thing I knew, I was in the hospital. The nurse said I'd been found unconscious in my apartment after a small fire. They told me it was caused by faulty wiring. The fire department found something sealed behind one of the walls. They wouldn't say what it was, but I overheard a detective talking to Dennis in the hallway. It looks like it's been there for years, he said. When I was released, I went back to the building one last time to collect whatever hadn't been burned. The place was boarded up, condemned. As I stood outside, I looked up at the window of my old apartment. For a moment, I thought I saw someone standing there, just barely visible through the soot-streaked glass. The figure was still, watching, and I swear it looked exactly like me. When I first moved into my new apartment downtown, I didn't care that the building was old or that the walls were thin enough to hear every argument and laugh from my neighbors. I just wanted a place of my own, a quiet escape from everything that had been falling apart in my life. The rent was suspiciously cheap, but the landlord, a woman named Mrs. Lane, said it was because the unit hadn't been rented in years. Apartment 3C, small, plain, and perfect for one person. It smelled faintly like bleach when I moved in, and there were strange circular stains on the ceiling, but I figured that came with the age of the building. The first few nights were uneventful, though I noticed the place never seemed to get warm. Even with the heat on, the air stayed cold and heavy, especially near the bedroom. I slept under 3 blankets, still shivering. Then on the 4th night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps, not from above or below inside my apartment. They were slow and deliberate, moving from the kitchen to the hall. I held my breath, waiting. The sound stopped right outside my bedroom door. I wanted to believe I was dreaming. The handle turned slightly, just enough for the metal to creak, then went still. I waited for what felt like hours before I dared to move. The next morning, everything looked normal, except for one thing. There was a single wet footprint on the hallway floor, facing my bedroom. I told myself I'd imagined it, that maybe it was my own footprint somehow. I cleaned the floor and went about my day. But that night I heard it again. The footsteps, slow and uneven. This time I sat up and whispered, "Who's there?" The sound stopped immediately, and I could have sworn I heard breathing from behind the door. I didn't move until dawn. When I opened the door in the morning, the hallway light flickered and there was another wet print, 2 this time, leading from the kitchen toward the window. I checked the locks, the windows, everything. All sealed. That same day I bumped into the old man who lived in 3B across the hall. His name was Mr. Carver. He had deep wrinkles and eyes that never quite focused on you when he talked. I mentioned the noises, hoping maybe he'd heard them too. He just looked at me and said, "You're in 3C, aren't you?" When I nodded, he shook his head. "You shouldn't stay there long. Nobody ever does." I tried to laugh it off, but he didn't. He just shuffled away without another word. Later that week, I was brushing my teeth when I noticed something strange in the mirror. The reflection behind me, the hallway, looked darker than it should have. Like there was someone standing there just beyond the edge of the frame. When I turned around, the hallway was empty. But in the mirror, I saw movement again, a flicker, like a person ducking out of sight. I thought maybe I was overtired. The next night, I covered the mirror before going to bed. Around 3 a.m., I woke to a low humming sound. It was soft at first, almost like someone whispering through the wall. I couldn't make out words, but it grew louder, closer until it felt like it was right beside my ear. I sat up, fumbling for the lamp, but the bulb flickered and went out. The humming turned into breathing. Slow. Deep. I turned toward the sound and saw the outline of someone sitting at the foot of my bed. I froze, unable to scream. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound. I could only see the faint glint of eyes reflecting what little light there was from outside. Then in a voice that sounded strained and wet, it said, "You're not supposed to be here." My body locked up completely. I must have blacked out because when I opened my eyes again, the room was empty. The light was on and the apartment was freezing. I checked every corner, every closet, under the bed. Nothing. But when I looked at the mirror I'd covered, the sheet was gone, and written across the glass in smeared condensation were the words, "Get out." I didn't go to work that day. I couldn't. I sat on the couch with all the lights on, trying to convince myself I was having some kind of breakdown. Around noon, there was a knock at my door. 3 short knocks. I jumped, hesitated, then opened it. It was Mrs. Lane, the landlord. She asked how I was settling in. I didn't know how to tell her that something was wrong, so I just blurted out, "Did someone die in my apartment?" She stiffened, her smile fading. "Why would you ask that?" she said. I told her about the noises, the footprints, the voice. She sighed and said quietly, "There was an incident. A tenant years ago. A young woman. She had some problems. Took her own life in that apartment." I felt sick. "In 3C?" I asked. Mrs. Lane hesitated before nodding. "She filled the bathtub," she said softly. "Nobody found her for days." I stared at her, speechless, until she muttered something about renovations and quickly left. After that conversation, the apartment felt heavier, like the walls were breathing. Every sound, every creak made me jump. That night, I couldn't bring myself to turn off the lights. I lay awake, listening. Around 2:45, I heard dripping water. I sat up, heart pounding, and followed the sound into the bathroom. The faucet was off, but water was slowly dripping into the tub from the ceiling above. I looked up. The plaster was stained dark, wet in the middle, and something thick and reddish was seeping through. I stumbled back, shaking. As I did, a drop landed on my arm. It wasn't water. It was sticky, metallic smelling. Blood. I ran into the hallway and pounded on Mr. Carver's door. He opened it wearing a robe, looking unsurprised, almost resigned. "You saw her, didn't you?" he said. I told him what I'd found, and he nodded. The girl who lived there, she never left. They say she drowned herself, but..." He trailed off, eyes darting toward my door. "Sometimes she comes back." I asked him why no one said anything, and he whispered, "Because the building keeps her here. She's part of it now." I didn't know what that meant, but I couldn't stand another second inside 3C. I spent that night in my car, parked down the street. I barely slept, staring up at the window of my apartment. Around 4 in the morning, the light in the bathroom turned on by itself. A shadow moved past the curtain. Someone was in there. I wanted to believe I was dreaming, but I could see the flicker of movement clearly, like someone pacing slowly back and forth. Then the light went out again. The next morning, I went back only long enough to grab a few things. The apartment door was unlocked, even though I was sure I'd locked it. Inside, it smelled like mold and old iron. The bathroom was dry again, ceiling spotless. I almost convinced myself it had all been in my head, until I saw the mirror. The words I'd seen the night before were still there, but something new had appeared beneath them, written in a shaky scrawl. "Stay with me." My stomach dropped. I tore the mirror off the wall, turned it over, and found something carved into the back of the glass. A name, Clara M., the woman who'd lived there before me. I threw the mirror into a trash bag, took it to the dumpster behind the building, and left it there. I didn't look back. That night, I stayed at a friend's place. I told him some of what happened, but left out most of it, because I didn't want to sound insane. He let me crash on his couch. Around 3 a.m., I woke up again to dripping water. The sound wasn't in my head, it was real, coming from the kitchen sink. When I turned on the light, my blood ran cold. The trash bag with the mirror inside was sitting on the floor, wet, muddy, like someone had carried it there from outside. My friend swore he didn't touch it. I didn't even bother opening it. I just left his apartment, mirror and all, and drove straight back to 3C at dawn, planning to confront Mrs. Lane and get out for good. But when I got there, something didn't make sense. The front door was wide open. Inside, everything looked the way I'd left it except the bathroom. The tub was full of water. Perfectly still. No leaks, no drips. Just water. I should have walked out right then. Instead, I stepped closer, staring down at my reflection. The water was so clear it almost looked like glass. Then the surface rippled and I saw another face behind mine, a woman's. Her eyes wide, her mouth open in a silent scream, hair floating around her like smoke. Before I could react, something cold grabbed my wrist and yanked. I fell forward, splashing into the tub, but the water didn't feel like water. It felt thick, suffocating, and endless. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I felt hands wrapping around my neck, pulling me deeper, and just before everything went black, I heard her voice whisper, "Now you know." I woke up on the bathroom floor, coughing up water. The tub was empty. My clothes were soaked, the mirror shattered beside me. I ran out of there, drove straight to my parents' house 2 towns over, and never went back. A week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, there was only static, then a faint dripping sound, and finally a woman's voice, calm and distant, saying, "You shouldn't have left me." I hung up and changed my number the same day. Months later, I read an article online about that building. It said a fire had destroyed the 3rd floor. No casualties reported, except they found water pooled all through apartment 3C like a flood that started from nowhere. The fire department said the pipes were bone dry, no source. They also found something else in the debris, a small mirror unbroken with a single fingerprint smudged across the glass. They said it belonged to no one in their records. I try not to think about it anymore, but sometimes when I close my eyes, I hear dripping water and a voice that isn't mine whispering from somewhere far away. "It's warm down here. Come back." When I first signed the lease for apartment 6F, I didn't know that it had been empty for nearly 5 years. The landlord, a quiet man with a limp named Howard, didn't mention it, and I didn't ask. I just needed a place fast, and the rent was almost too good to be true. The building itself sat on the edge of downtown, an aging concrete slab from the 70s with long, echoing hallways and that faint smell of mildew that no amount of cleaning ever fully erased. My friends joked that it looked like the kind of place where people disappeared, but I laughed it off. I was broke and tired of living out of my car. When I moved in, the apartment seemed fine, dusty but livable. The first strange thing I noticed was the wallpaper. It was pale green, peeling in long strips near the corners, but what unsettled me was that someone had painted over handprints, small ones like a child's, half faded but still visible beneath the new coat of paint. I asked Howard about it when I saw him again a few days later. He looked confused at first, then said, "Oh, that, probably from the renovations. Kids used to play around when the workers were here." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The first week was quiet, almost too quiet. I worked nights at a security firm and usually got home around 2 or 3 in the morning. Every time I stepped into the hallway, it was silent, not a sound from any of the other units. I started to wonder if anyone else even lived on my floor. Sometimes I'd catch faint noises, muffled footsteps, maybe a door closing. But whenever I tried to see who it was, the hallway would be empty. I started keeping my TV on just for background noise, anything to fill the void. Then one night, something strange happened. I was brushing my teeth before bed when I heard soft tapping sounds from inside the wall, like someone knocking with their knuckles, slow and deliberate. I stopped, listening. The sound moved, traveling from the bathroom to the living room, then stopped right behind the couch. I pressed my ear against the wall and heard something faint, almost like whispering. I couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like a voice, a child's voice. I told myself it was the pipes. Old buildings make noise. That's what I kept repeating in my head. The next morning I was leaving for work when I noticed something odd. My doormat was gone. In its place was a small plastic toy, a red ball, scuffed and faded. I didn't own anything like it. When I picked it up, I felt something sticky on my fingers. It was damp. There was a faint metallic smell that made me drop it immediately. I told myself it was just someone's kid playing a prank, even though I hadn't seen a single child in this building since I moved in. That night, I heard the knocking again. This time it was louder. 3 knocks, a pause, 3 more. Then silence. I turned off the TV and held my breath. The air felt heavy, like the whole room was holding still. Then I heard a small laugh. Just one short, high-pitched giggle from somewhere near the kitchen. I jumped up, flipped every light on, checked every corner. The apartment was empty. I stood there shaking for what felt like an hour before I finally convinced myself I was losing it. 2 nights later, I woke up to the sound of something rolling across the floor. I turned on the lamp just in time to see that same red ball stop in the middle of my bedroom. I hadn't brought it inside. I remember staring at it, my skin crawling, when something whispered from under the bed. "Play with me." The voice was small, raspy, almost broken. I bolted out of the room, grabbed my phone, and called Howard. He didn't pick up. I spent the rest of the night sitting in the hallway outside my door, watching the entrance to my apartment like it was a wild animal that might lash out if I looked away. When Howard finally came by the next morning, I told him everything: the knocking, the toy, the voice. He looked pale. "You said you're in 6F?" he asked quietly. I nodded. He sighed and rubbed his temples. "I should have told you," he said. "A family lived there before. They had a little girl, she was 6. I asked him what happened, but he didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, "They all just vanished. No signs of a break-in. The police searched for months. Some of their stuff was still inside. Toys, clothes. The wallpaper was covered in handprints like she'd been trying to get out. I asked why he didn't tear the wall down, and he said something that chilled me. We did, but every time we repainted, the prints came back. That night, I tried to stay somewhere else, but my friend bailed last minute. I ended up back in 6F, wide awake, every light on. Around 3:15, the knocking started again. It was faster this time, almost frantic, coming from multiple spots in the walls at once. Then the lights began to flicker. I stood up, heart pounding, staring at the living room wall where the sound was loudest. The wallpaper started to bubble and peel, revealing darker patches underneath, shapes that looked like smeared handprints. Small ones, hundreds of them. I backed up until I hit the far wall, breathing hard, whispering to myself that it wasn't real. Then, from somewhere deep inside the wall, I heard crying. Soft at first, then louder. The sound of a child sobbing. I shouted, "Who's there?" The crying stopped instantly. After a few seconds, a small voice whispered right behind me, "You took my room." I don't remember much after that. I must have blacked out because when I opened my eyes, it was morning and I was lying on the floor covered in dust and pieces of wallpaper. My phone was dead. The air smelled like old water and rust. The toy ball was gone. I left for work without showering, too afraid to be alone in the apartment. When I came home that evening, the front door was unlocked, even though I was sure I'd locked it. Inside, everything looked normal except for the wall behind the couch. Someone, or something, had drawn on it with a crayon. A crude, childlike drawing of a stick figure family. A man, a woman, and a little girl holding a red ball. Below it, in shaky letters, it said, "We live here." I tried to scrub it off, but the marks wouldn't fade. I covered it with a painting and tried to pretend I hadn't seen it. That night, I dreamed of a small girl standing in my living room, facing the wall. Her hair was wet and clumped together, dripping down her back. She was whispering to the wall like it could hear her. When I got closer, I realized she wasn't whispering. She was humming. A soft, tuneless melody, the kind kids hum when they're playing alone. I woke up gasping, heart racing. The room was dark except for the faint glow from the streetlights outside. Then I heard it, the same humming coming from the corner of the room. I turned on the light. No one was there. But the air was wet and cold, and the smell of mildew filled my nose. I sat frozen until sunrise. A few days later, I'd had enough. I told Howard I was moving out. He didn't argue. He just nodded and said, "I'll have someone clean the unit." That was the last time I saw him. I packed everything into my car that night. As I was leaving, I glanced back one last time. The hallway light outside my door flickered, and for just a second I saw something small standing there. A girl, barefoot, wearing what looked like a white nightgown, her head tilted slightly to the side. She was holding the red ball. I blinked, and she was gone. I moved to a different part of town and tried to forget about it. A month later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, there was only static at first. Then, faintly, I heard the sound of knocking. 3 times. Pause. 3 more. Then a child's voice said, "You forgot your toy." I hung up, trembling, and threw my phone across the room. Later that night, when I got home, something was sitting on my front porch. A small, red ball. Wet. Covered in dust. I didn't touch it. I just stood there staring until I finally kicked it into the street. It rolled away, disappearing into the dark. I thought that was the end of it. But a few weeks later, I started hearing knocking again. 3 slow taps on the wall every night around 3 in the morning. Different apartment, different building, same sound. Sometimes if I listen closely, I can almost hear her humming again, faint and patient, waiting for me to answer.